We're gonna move on to another story. We're gonna talk about the House Speaker race because we finally have a House Speaker. Let's take a look.
As we have been reporting, Republican Congressman Mike Johnson of Louisiana has been voted the new House Speaker. This comes after 3 unsuccessful weeks of various speaker bids and chaos and confusion and legislative paralysis. It also happened while candidates for the Republican nomination are in the throes of primary season.
So the GOP was having a whole civil war over this because we have the typical neocons, the George Bush era Republicans. We have the Republicans who are well entrenched into the uniparty. We have these Republicans who just want to go along to get along. So whatever they need to do to remain in power, to collect some donation money for their campaigns, so they can enrich themselves. We have all these types of Republicans, and unlike the Democrats, the Republicans are not a hive mind. You remember how AOC was supposed to go in there and shake up things? She was supposed to start some type of Democrat revolution, get them to move the party away from the establishment. And Nancy Pelosi spanked her and put her in line. You see how they were calling Bernie Sanders a revolutionary and he was going to change things and shake things up big time. They screwed him out of 2 elections and he fell in line because the Democrats are a hive mind. They just go along with what the powers that be in their party want. They're not allowed to step out. Unlike that, the Republicans actually have individual thoughts. So Matt Gaetz and 7 other Republicans were against Kevin McCarthy to begin with. They didn't want him to be the House Speaker, but he had to cut deals with them. And one of the deals was to rein in the spending. So Matt Gaetz them back in January, after 15, 20 votes, they eventually helped to vote Kevin McCarthy in for Speaker of the House. And one of the provisions was that one person can call for a vote to have Kevin McCarthy ousted. So we had this whole thing going on with the government about to shut down. A lot of Republicans are seeing what their voters want, and the voters don't want all this funding to continue to go to Ukraine, which is a black hole, a full-blown money pit, a waste of money. Except for the government contractors, the defense contractors, it's not a waste of money for them because they're getting rich off of it. But for the taxpayers, it's a black hole. So these Republicans were against this spending. So look, we're not going to lump Ukraine in with funding for other things. We're not just going to make some gigantic bill and just push it through like we normally do. Because Kevin McCarthy was saying, look, everybody, let's just get in line. Let's just create this gigantic 5,000 page bill that none of y'all are going to read, and let's all just vote on it. Everybody get paid. Everybody go home. Matt Gaetz them said, you know what? We tired of you, man. We're not dealing with this. Matt Gaetz was saying that it looks like McCarthy was trying to cut some backdoor deals with the Democrats. So he called for Kevin McCarthy to get ousted. And because the Republican majority is so slim, it only took Matt Gaetz and his crew plus the Democrats to get Kevin McCarthy out of there. So that threw things into full-blown chaos because now the House, for the first time ever, was without a speaker. He was the first speaker to ever be ousted from the House. They had a temporary speaker, but that temporary speaker didn't have the full speaker power. He was just sitting in the seat. So they were saying, okay, what now? Because Matt Gaetz them didn't have a backup plan. They just said, look, you are establishment. You're cutting backdoor deals with Democrats. You're not trying to help on spending, like you said. You are not good enough for us. You're too lefty to run things. So we don't know who's going to replace you. We just know it can't be you running the show. So they got them out of there, and the Republicans are scrambling. Like, who can we get? Who can we get? And remember, the majority is so slim that the entire Republican Party, all the Republicans in the House, have to agree on who it's going to be. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. So they came up with Steve Scalise. But the problem with Scalise is he's also a little establishment type, and he's not conservative enough, allegedly. A lot of people like him, but another issue was he has cancer and he's dealing with that. So people are saying, I don't know, we should vote for this guy. He needs to be worried about his family and his medical condition. Then you got a guy that a lot of people love, Jim Jordan. I actually would have liked to have him as the House Speaker. He didn't want to do it, but he was talked into it. They eventually put him up for a vote. The Republicans in public said they were going to support him. When it came down to the vote, they actually didn't support him. I think it was 3 rounds. He went for 3 separate votes to become the Speaker, and he lost every time. The Republican Party didn't want him. The establishment didn't want him. The MAGA wing of the Republican Party, Matt Gaetz and his crew, the America First caucus of the Republican Party, they actually wanted Jim Jordan, but the Uniparty and the establishment said hell no. So they actually voted again to kick him out of the running. So the Republicans agreed, okay, we're going to have Tom Emmer. He's been there for a while. He's a majority whip. So we're going to select him. So the Republicans chose him as their speaker designee. And within hours of them selecting him, Trump came out and said, yeah, that guy's a rhino. We don't want him as Speaker of the House.
Tom Emmer, it looks like he's finished. He was not a supporter. He was a rhino. And it looks like he's finished, but we'll see. You never know.
Do you support anyone else for Speaker, sir?
I'll let you know. The trial is
Before there was even a vote, Tom Emmer said, God damn, I guess it's not me. So he withdrew. So what's that? 4 people, including McCarthy, 4 people that are no longer wanted as House Speaker. And this went on for weeks. So finally, they selected on the guy. We need somebody who the establishment can like, but also the MAGA Republicans and America First Republicans. We need somebody who doesn't have an extremely long tenure in DC, who doesn't have a lot of enemies. So they went with Mike Johnson. And the first question was, who the hell is Mike Johnson? Which is a good thing, because we don't need somebody who's been there for like 20, 30 years, who's deep into the swamp like Kevin McCarthy was and like Nancy Pelosi was on the Democrat side. We don't need anybody like that to be the Speaker of the House. So let's look at Mike Johnson's introductory speech.
My dedicated wife of almost 25 years, Kelly, she's not here. We couldn't get a flight in time. This happened sort of suddenly. But we're going to celebrate soon. She spent the last couple of weeks on her knees in prayer to the Lord. And we stand at a very dangerous time. I'm stating the obvious. We all know that. The world is in turmoil. But a strong America is good for the entire world. We're only 247 years into this grand experiment. We don't know how long it will last. But we do know that the founders told us to take good care of it. I want to tell all my colleagues here what I told the Republicans in that room last night. I don't believe there are any coincidences in a matter like this. I believe that Scripture, the Bible, is very clear that God is the one that raises up those in authority. He raised up each of you, all of us. And I believe that God has ordained and allowed each one of us to be brought here for this specific moment in this time. This is my belief. I believe that each one of us has a huge responsibility today to use the gifts that God has given us to serve the extraordinary people of this great country, and they deserve it, and to ensure that our republic remains standing as the great beacon of light and hope and freedom in a world that desperately needs it. That our national motto, "In God We Trust," was adorned above this rostrum. And if you look at the little guide that they give tourists and constituents who come and visit the house, if you turn in there to about page 14 in the middle of that guide, it tells you the history of this. And it says very simply, these words were placed here above us. This motto was placed here as a rebuke of the Cold War era philosophy of the Soviet Union. That philosophy was Marxism and communism, which begins with the premise that there is no God. This is a critical distinction. America is the only nation in the world that is founded upon a creed. And he said it's listed with almost theological lucidity in the Declaration of Independence. What is our creed? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, not born equal, created equal. And they are endowed by the same inalienable rights, with the same inalienable rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That is the creed that has animated our nation since its founding, that has made us the great nation that we are. And we're in a time of extraordinary crisis right now. And the world needs us to be strong. They need us to remember our creed and our conceit to you all.
So that's a look at Mike Johnson. That's the new Speaker of the House for the time being. We'll see in another year and a half, January 2025, who the House Speaker is going to be then. Are they going to select Mike Johnson again? That's if they can even hold on to the majority. But a lot of people are mad about it because you heard him talking about prayer, about God. So people saying, oh, this isn't a religious country. You can't force your religion on us, even though they try to force all that trans to kids crap and all that sun monster crap, which is very religious. Like they try to force it on Christians, but when a Christian representative in Congress talks about prayer, oh, it's a problem. These demons, it's not that they're anti-religious, it's that they don't like the religion of Christianity because they have their own demonic religions. But he's making enemies on the left already. Eventually, they're going to be calling him a white supremacist, just like they do to others. And then some people on the right and the left, people are saying, oh, he doesn't have enough experience. He just got in 2015, 2016. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's going to do a terrible job. Look, first of all, this is a good thing. We don't need somebody who has 20, 30 years of experience because these guys are entrenched in a swamp. And another reason why we don't need somebody like that is because we need term limits. So if you've been in Congress for 20, 30 years, your ass don't need to be there to begin with. You shouldn't be able to be in Congress long enough to have that much experience. I call for the House of Representatives to have a 4-term limit, 8 years. So if you've been in this thing for more than 8 years, you're disqualified. So I think it's good that somebody like him, he hasn't had the chance to build all these relationships with Big Pharma, with the military industrial complex, with Big Oil, even though I'm pretty sure that he's in bed with them to a certain extent, but not as entrenched as somebody who's been there for decades. So it's a good thing. But one thing I don't like about him is this guy said the first thing that he's going to do is pass a resolution of supporting Israel. He's going to send billions of dollars. He's going to agree with the Uniparty, agree with the Democrats, and award the people in the military industrial complex billions of more taxpayer dollars. Well, not even taxpayer dollars, print money to send over there. So he's agreeing to send, I think it's $15 billion dollars over there to aid Israel, even though the United States, every year the United States gives the Israeli military, the IDF, gives them $4 billion. So you're already giving these guys billions of dollars a year. So they get into a war. Why the hell do you need to continue funding it? Aren't you already giving them the billions of dollars? So if you need to give them $14 billion now, what the hell were they using the money for to begin with? The money you gave them last year, the year before, and the year before. Where the hell did that money go? If you all of a sudden need to make an emergency resolution and send these guys billions of dollars. So I don't like that. You coming into the second most powerful position in the country, the House Speaker, more powerful than the Vice President. You coming into this position talking about another country. We got all problems going on at home, but you, just like Joe Biden told the New Yorkers, I don't give a damn about you, just like he showed the Hawaiians and the people in East Palestine over there in Ohio. He showed all these people, look, I don't give a damn about y'all. I'm going to go to Israel and play buddy-buddy with Benjamin Netanyahu, give him a hug and all of that. And now we got on the Republican side, we got the new House Speaker. Look, I know we got all types of problems. We have piss poor education. We got crime going on. People can barely afford gas to go to work. Rent prices are skyrocketing. I know we got all that going on, but look, that's not my priority. My priority is Israel. What the hell is going on in D.C., man? These people are entrenched with these Jews over here in Israel. What's going on with that? And the reason why I say Jew is because Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, when he went over there talking about supporting Israel, it wasn't talking about what's best for Americans, what's in the best interest of the American people. That wasn't his explanation on the reason why the United States was supporting. He said the reason why is because he's a Jew. So they're spending U.S. taxpayer resources, U.S. taxpayer money, using U.S. taxpayer-funded ships, soldiers, U.S. blood, and these soldiers that they got over there in secret don't want to tell the people about. They're using all of that because they're in line with the Jews. Explain why the hell is it American interest. And I don't want to hear any of this stuff of talking about, oh, it's because we're trying to make Jesus come back because all of the prophecies in the Bible and all that. Look, man, I don't know anything about that. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Maybe today's Israel is not the same Israel from the Bible thousands of years ago. I don't know. That can be debated. There's a whole theological debate, but these politicians are saying stuff like this, and they're saying, oh, we got to protect the Jews, but they're not explaining to the American people why they should use American resources to prioritize Israelis on the other side of the world instead of the American people. So when he gets up there and says that, I'm just like, man, you kind of lose me already. One thing that was good that he said was he's not down with this funding of Ukraine because he sees the writing on the wall. He's looking at the polls. The vast majority of Republican voters are out on Ukraine, don't want nothing to do with this anymore because they realize that they've been duped. And this whole war was just a profiteering move by the U.S. government because Russia invaded Ukraine. 5 weeks later, Ukraine agreed to terms to end this war with Russia. Russia invaded in February 2022. March 2022, Ukraine and Russia had a peace deal, but the United States and the British blocked it. So the United States has chose to drag this war out way longer. And what you might ask why? Because of money. Because we can't have a war ending in 5 weeks. Look, man, if we can drag this thing out for 2 years, 3 years, imagine all the billions of dollars that we can run over there through Ukraine. Imagine all the billions of dollars that the military industrial complex can make and that we can get in kickbacks and our campaign donations. Imagine all the board seats we're going to get, like Nikki Haley, Queen neocon warmonger Nikki Haley. So it's a good thing that Mike Johnson is not down to continue sending money to this, even though he did say one thing that I think was a bit neoconish, talking about he still believes that Russia needs to be stopped and all of that. And if the West doesn't stand up and stop Russia and Ukraine, which they can't do, they show they are not capable of doing it. If the West doesn't stop Russia, then Russia's just going to continue and they're going to invade Poland next and the Baltic states after that. And then they're going to get all of Europe. So is this what you really believe, Mike Johnson? Are you really that much of a dupe? Are you one of these George Bush era neocons who talks like this? Because this sounds like some crap that Lindsey Graham would say. What are you going to say next? We need to bomb Iran? So it's some decent things about this guy, but his foreign policies, man, I just can't ride with these guys who have these mentalities of funding all these foreign wars, trying to be the world police, burning out American resources, using American blood, lying and manipulating American people with all these warmongering, fear-mongering tactics. I just can't get down with somebody like that. Outside of foreign policy, another good thing is his thoughts on two-way, on protecting gun rights, because you see we just had this shooting over here in Maine. We had the gunman on the run, and after that whole thing settled, what's the first thing Democrats said? Hey, ban guns. People shouldn't have guns to begin with. People shouldn't have these assault rifles, even though they don't even know what the hell an assault rifle is. And Mike Johnson is against all that stuff. He said it's not the time to talk about it, but I know he's going to fight to protect two-way. He's going to fight to protect people's rights to protect themselves, because your first line of defense when something like this happens is yourself. Hey, before you go, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video. Thank you for watching.
Every day.